Welcome to Time's Remnants. Today, we travel back nearly 2,000 years to explore the delicious, surprising, and sometimes even bizarre world of ancient Roman food. What did the Romans eat? How did meals differ between rich and poor citizens? And what culinary secrets did this great empire leave behind? Let's take a journey through history, one bite at a time. In ancient Rome, people usually ate 3 meals a day. The first, in taculum, was breakfast, and it was usually light, some bread, maybe a bit of cheese, dried fruit, or olives. On special days, they might even enjoy honey or a small piece of cake. The second meal, prandium, was lunch, and for most people, it was something quick: boiled eggs, fruits, or leftovers from the previous night. But the real heart of Roman eating was cena, dinner. This was the largest and most important meal of the day. It typically began in the late afternoon and, in wealthy households, could last for several hours. For the average Roman citizen, farmers, laborers, or soldiers, dinner was often humble. A porridge made from barley or wheat called puls was common. It might be flavored with vegetables, herbs, or a bit of olive oil. Beans, lentils, onions, garlic, and leafy greens were dietary staples. Meat was a luxury, not an everyday ingredient. But for Rome's wealthy elite, dinner was a grand event. Lavish feasts were a way to display status, wealth, and even political influence. Tables overflowed with exotic ingredients imported from across the empire. Dishes might include roasted boar, grilled dormice stuffed with nuts and honey, or seafood brought in fresh from the coast. They enjoyed ducks, geese, and occasionally rare birds. And they didn't just eat food, they decorated it, sculpted it, and shaped it to impress. A Roman banquet wasn't complete without wine, and lots of it. Unlike modern wine, Roman wine was often diluted with water and flavored with herbs, honey, or even seawater. It wasn't just for pleasure, it was part of social bonding and conversation. A key ingredient in nearly every Roman dish was garum, a fermented fish sauce. Made by layering fish innards and salt and letting them ferment under the sun, garum might sound unpleasant, but Romans adored it. It added a deep umami flavor, much like soy sauce or anchovy paste does today. Garum was so valuable that different cities became known for their own versions, and it was even exported across the empire in amphora. Other condiments added rich layers to Roman cuisine. De frutum, a grape syrup, was used to sweeten sauces or desserts. Vinegar, mustard seeds, herbs like thyme and lovage, and spices like pepper and cumin were used frequently, especially by the rich who could afford imports from Asia and Africa. Cooking in Rome varied widely depending on class. Poor families usually cooked in small hearths or shared community ovens. Sometimes they didn't cook at all, instead buying hot meals from thermopolia, which were ancient fast food shops lining busy Roman streets. These stalls had counters with embedded jars to keep stews and soups warm, and they served everything from spiced beans to sausages. Wealthy households, by contrast, had spacious kitchens known as cuisine, staffed by slaves who prepared elaborate meals. They used bronze pots, clay baking dishes, and iron tools. Large clay ovens were used for roasting, and spits rotated over open fires for grilling meat. The kitchens were often smoky, hot, and bustling with activity, especially before a feast. Dinner parties in elite homes were elaborate affairs. Guests were invited to recline on couches arranged around the dining room, called a triclinium. As they lay back, slaves served one course after another while musicians played poets performed, or dancers entertained. This wasn't just eating, it was a cultural experience. A typical elite Roman feast might begin with the starter course, gustaccio, which included light dishes like eggs, salad, or seafood. The main course, prima mensa, followed, featuring meat, fish, and richly flavored stews. Finally came secunda mensa, or dessert, often fruits, nuts, or sweet pastries soaked in honey. Though often exaggerated, the myth of the vomitorium, a place to purge food to continue eating, is not accurate. The word actually refers to exit passages in amphitheaters. Still, stories of overindulgence at Roman feasts are not entirely untrue. Wealthy Romans prided themselves on abundance, and their banquets were often excessive by design. In the end, Roman food was a mirror of Roman society. It reflected geography, trade, wealth, and class. The poor relied on local, seasonal ingredients and simple preparation. The rich, on the other hand, created a cuisine that was global in scale, experimental in flavor, and deeply tied to their identity as masters of a vast empire. From modest barley porridge to opulent banquets featuring flamingo tongues and wine-soaked desserts, ancient Roman cuisine was far more complex and diverse than many imagine. Thanks for joining us on this flavorful journey through time. If you enjoyed this episode of Time's Remnants, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories from the ancient world, one bite at a time.